Welcome, this is the IM2 Module 8 quiz test review sheet. Here I'm going to be covering just part 1, which is question 1, factor the expression completely, which is just factoring by the greatest common factor. Let's look at number A here. We have 16 minus 10x. We want to factor using the greatest common factor. So we take every single term, so 16, and we split it into smaller pieces. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 2, 4, 6, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay. Then we have 10x. We could split that into 2 times 5 times x. The greatest common factor here is the 2's, so we write equals to 2. So the greatest common factor here is 2. Now what's in the parentheses is what's left over. So let's look at that. 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 8 is left. And then on the bottom, it's 5x. 5x is left. All right. So we can say an 8 was left from the 16 minus 10x. What is left from the 10x? The 5x. And there you go. This is how you factor using the greatest common factor. Let's look at B. We are here looking for the greatest common factor. We get each term. So the first one's 5x. That can be split up into 5 times x. Then we have 25, which can be split up to 5 times 5. The greatest common factor here is 5. So the GCF is equal to 5. So 5 is the greatest common factor. We put a parentheses. Inside the parentheses is what is left. So we say here x is left over from the 5x, and a 5 is left over from the 25. So from the 5x, an x was left over, plus, then from the 25, a 5 was left over. So an x was left over from the 5x, and a 5 was left over from the 25 once you pull out the GCF of 5. C. Here we're going to factor using the greatest common factor. So we want to find the GCF. So we get each term. So 14x is equal to, you want to split this up, 2 times 7 times x. Then you have the number 21x squared. That can be broken up into 3 times 7 times x times x. Let's circle the like terms. So 7 and x. So the greatest common factor here is 7x. Let's see what is left over. A 2 is left over from the 14x. And a 3x is left over from the 21x squared. So the greatest common factor was a 7x. Parentheses, what was left? A 2 was left from the 14x minus a 3x was left from the 21x squared. Let's look at D. We want to find the greatest common factor. We have 45y cubed. That can be split up into, let's see, 5 times 9. So 3 times 3 times y times y times y. Then you have 35y squared. That is 6 times 5. That is 7 times 5. Yeah. So 5 times 7 times y times y. Okay. The greatest common factor. Let's take a look. Well, they have a 5 in common. They have one pair of y's and then other pair of y's. So here the greatest common factor is 5y squared. So you can write 5y squared. Put the parentheses. We just have to figure out what's left. So what is left from the 45y cubed? So a 3, 3, and a y. So that's 9y is left over from the 45y cubed. And a 7 is left over here from the 35y squared. So 9y is left over minus 7. So that 9y minus 7 is left over. So that's what it looks like after you completely factored, right? So there you go. That is how you factor using the greatest common factor.